Going out there, I ran across this video with Roland Martin and Jason Whitlock in the YouTubian abyss. The video came out like 5 or 6 years ago, and I remember watching some of their whole thing, their whole I guess debate or whatever when it came out at that time. And they were just having an interesting conversation. And this particular piece is about whether or not the so-called black people in the Americas should vote. Well, I would just say in America should vote. So I'm going to see what they're talking about and just give my 1-2.
Away from the election. You said before, you don't vote.
I don't.
Why?
Because
And I don't know what was going on with Roland's audio at this time, but it's not me.
never trusted a politician a day in my life. I don't believe in politics. I'm not a person that really believes in compromise. And politics is mostly about compromise. I'm not good at that.
So how do we change?
I don't trust.
Nobody?
Not in politics, no. I think it's a very dishonest profession.
So all of them?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just...
Well, Roland's about to put in some commercial tag or whatever he's going to do. But I'm going to say something about what Whitlock just said. I feel what he's saying right there. Like, to me, it's kind of a dishonest profession if you look at it from a standpoint of politicians just want to tell you what you want to hear just so they can advance in their career. But a lot of people in this country are actually like politically immature and don't know a lot about voting. Voting is, if you get a block of people that agree on the same things, put your money behind a politician, and you put the politician in power, they make moves on your behalf, not the other way around. People, like I said, people are way too politically immature to understand that, and I don't know why people don't.
One moment. Freeprints.com gives you 1,000 4x6 prints every single year. If the number in there where you heard
Of all contracts. And Maynard Jackson runs. And Maynard Jackson, by virtue of being the mayor of Atlanta, literally changes the course of history for African Americans. He used it through politics. He used the two terms as mayor to change. Coleman Young in Detroit, Marion Barry in D.C.
I don't believe in politics. I really don't.
So the issues you often talk about, how do you actually think politics has no role in that?
Excuse me?
The issue that you talk about, say we should be discussing or dealing with.
Whitlock just said, excuse me, like the waiter just told him that they took ribs off the menu or something.
Now, I'm not giving you the advice, hey, you got to follow and believe what Jason Whitlock believes. I'm not advising anyone that. We're talking about me. There's certain things unique in my personality.
But if you don't vote, aren't you part of the problem?
If you might argue that.
No, I'm asking. Because
you might. I don't believe that. No.
So of the things that are happening in our world, any number of issues, if politics is involved in it, well then how can we change something for the good if we don't vote for someone who we think will be able to make changes?
Yeah, someone who you put in office. Like I said, you put your money behind somebody who you believe will get done what you want to get done in your interest, not the other way around. And Roland Martin is a Democratic shield anyway, so he gets paid from them and, to swindle so-called black people, the good men and women out there to vote for Democrat. And I could care less about either party, honestly. Both of them could roll off a cliff for all I care.
Because I think politics, the way it's constructed now, is always going to let you down. I think that there's so much dishonesty and corruption in politics that I just don't personally involve myself in it. What I believe in, what's best for us as African Americans, is an allegiance to God. I believe that is our salvation.
An allegiance?
Whoa, see, Whitlock brought up a really good point for the good men and good women out there. Turning back to the good book is going to steer you in the direction that that Roland wants to go in, quote unquote, going through politics. Because if you're following the good book, you're following the word, you're going to be living in a righteous manner. And you're not going to need all this political influence in your life. You're not. Because then it's going to bring solidarity to, the so-called good men and women out there, to follow the book. And even in the good book, it talks about I believe it's in like in Lamentations, something. I think it's like Lamentation, maybe 4 or 17. One of the good men out there, correct me if I'm wrong. It says that we followed a nation in vain to help us, to save us. This nation is not going to save us, man. Like, we got to get past that. I don't know what it's going to take. Maybe the Messiah coming back, of course, but in the time being in this society, like, the good men and good women got to wake up. We got to come back together. We got to come back to the good book and come back to the Most High.
And allegiance to God.
Far more than politics.
You do know politics also deals with God.
We have replaced religion with politics. We have an addiction to politics right now. We as black people, we talk about politics from Obama to Trump the way we used to talk about God, and I think it's inappropriate. It's our constant, everyday conversation. This is part of my problem why I can't stand Twitter and social media. There's a disconnect. It's one of the most secular places you can actually be. I think if you go look at the Asian American community that has had a lot of success here in America, it's not through politics. It's through an allegiance to themselves and taking care of themselves. That's why I think we've lost course as African Americans.
Exactly. Them Asian cats, they stick together, and they know that what they can do with their money and their power when they stick together, and they have a culture. We, the good men and women here, we don't have a culture, man. We got to get our culture back, and when I say get our culture back, that means we got to turn back, to the good book, and we know who the author of the good book is. So when we do that, man, we're going to be good.
Have Asian Americans had the same history as black folks in America?
I don't think they've had the same history, but I think they've had issues in America, and I think they've addressed their issues by gathering up in their own communities, supporting each other, and supporting themselves, and they're not as heavily involved in politics. I think there was a time when we needed to be heavily involved in politics. There were laws on the books that prevented us from pursuing happiness and liberty and things in America. I think we went through that time in the 60s, 50s, 60s, maybe part of the 70s. Again,
Jason brings up another good point, man. It was a time for that because we were being denied basic human rights. And on top of that, you paying taxes for stuff you can't even use. So he has a point. And a lot of, people back then were moving as a monolith as far as voting what made sense for the people. And having basic rights and things of that nature. And if I'm paying taxes for something, of course I want to use the damn bathroom or use the library if I want to. Stuff like that. Of course I want my schools to be up to par. If it makes sense like that, then that's why the voting was enacted back then for that. That makes sense.
I suggested to the rest of Africa that you disassociate yourself from politics, but I think we've overdosed on it.
You do.
And we think our solutions are political. I don't.
First of all, it's not solely political, and also, but it's a whole bunch of people who have lots of God, but also have no plan. The reality is this here. We can show the timeline of the role that politics has played in actually making our community a better community, but not only making our community a better community, also making our lives in America better. To act as if somehow that's irrelevant is crazy.
For me, I didn't say it was a suggestion for Roland. So this is my personal opinion.
So, what are your top 3 issues? What are they?
For African Americans?
No, your top 3 issues. So, whether you want to be for black folks or everybody, what are the top 3 issues?
The number one issue I think facing the African Americans is our breakdown in family, and I would couple that with our distancing ourselves from religion. I think those two things go hand in hand. Until we fix the black family and until we get right back with God, nothing good is going to happen for us.
But when you say...
I'm curious to see, like I said, I haven't seen this video in like a long time, and I forgot what Roland was going to say. But Jason, man, brought up a good point. And even if you don't subscribe to the Most High, whatever reasons, I mean, even if you follow some principles, it's going to help you along in your life. Just basic principles. But I'm curious to see what Roland is going to say.
Hey, get back with God. There are millions of black folks who are in church every Sunday, who are in Bible study, There are numerous
As soon as they leave
African-Americans.
church and Bible study, they go straight to politics. They turn on
But
cable TV, and they have an addiction to politics.
You do know we had religious leaders in the 50s and 60s who were also heavily involved in politics.
Did it? We had laws on the books in the 50s and 60s that drastically needed to be changed.
We still have laws on the books that actually were set during those times that still have to be changed. The Florida Restoration voting initiatives right now dates back to a law in the 1880s. The governor of Virginia, who won, Terry McCullough, when he wanted to extend voting rights to formerly incarcerated, all 13,000 at one time, the Republicans said, no, you have to do the individual. That dated back to a 1902 law where lawmakers said on the floor, we are doing this to keep the darkies from voting. And so the reality is to act as if somehow politics does not still have to hurt us or we somehow can't interact with it.
Didn't say that.
So
I was about to say the same thing. Whitlock didn't say that. It's like Roland is trying to pound voting into Whitlock's head, and Whitlock gave a good explanation why he doesn't do it, but he's not against somebody that would do it. So I don't know why Roland is just trying to drive this home. I mean, I know why, but, that's just his spiel.
But again, though,
I said for me, I don't involve myself in politics.
So when you look at the issues,
my number one issues were.
Actually, for three. You said
I really only have two.
You said the family and the black church.
Family and spirituality. We have disconnected from God, and it's a mistake.
Well, I would argue, especially as somebody who's the husband of a minister, and in terms of the folks who I also see, there's a significant number of us who are very much there with our religion, but I think there are a whole lot of us who also love to talk about what is happening in our society, and frankly, are sitting on their behinds and not voting when they can actually impact it. See, I know there are politicians who are good people. There are people who are there to do the right thing.
If you go study the history of the planet, if the family's not connected, nothing can grow from that. If the family's not together, nothing can grow from that. And so we can put all the laws we want on the books.
Yeah,
but if our families are in disarray and our children are being raised by grandmamas and aunties and cousins and things like that, nothing is going to happen. And as long as we are disconnected from God, nothing good will happen.
But here's what I also realize. There is a long time for a whole lot of us have been connected to God, have been praising and worshiping, and all of that. And we have still been broke. We have still been locked out. You can be the most holiest of holy person.
But Roland didn't say whether they were praising the Most High in the right way. Because if you were, then you will be going along the lines that Whitlock is alluding to. And not have politics, just be so heavily reliant on politics and the government intersecting in your, being in your life.
And you can be on a job and somebody can make a decision that, nah, you ain't getting promoted. You can sit here and lay hands and heal people all you want to, and you can still encounter that. What I am saying is, we can actually do both at the same time. And what I am looking at, and I talk about in terms of what is happening, I think if anybody who reads Dr. King's book, Chaos or Community, where do we go from here? What he laid out in that book, where he talked about the institutions that can play a critical role in saving black America. He said the black church, he said the black press, and he said the black professional organizations, which includes fraternities and sororities, because of their infrastructure. He dealt with religion, but even Dr. King understood, right in that book in 1967, that we can be as holy as possible. But there are still other aspects of our lives that we must contend with. And to act as if politics and community, you can even say save our community. My parents were founders of our city club. That's still politics. Because who picks up trash and who cuts down overgrown lots and who tears out crack houses, that's politics.
To me, family and God and family are the foundation for any healthy community, any healthy group.
So what do you do?
The foundation's no good. You can stack all the politics on top of what you want. It's going to collapse.
Okay, so what do you do then? So to answer this question, what do you do if you're that family and it's mama and dad and they are holy people? They love God and they serve God. But their kids still go to horrible schools. they also are living in areas where you don't have economic opportunities. They are a nuclear family, loving it together. But this is their inside of the house. This is the rest of the house. How do you deal with that?
I think
If politics doesn't matter.
I'm not saying I didn't say politics don't matter.
Okay, it's fine. Okay, so if you have this black family that's together, and they love each other, and then they're praising God, and they love God, but then when they step outside of their house, they're still dealing with an economic reality, and an education reality, and a social reality. Who changes that? How is that
The
family?
individual, I know many families like that. Most of my friends come from families like that, and I know how we made it and moved forward. And so again, if you come from, and I came from parents that were divorced, but I know where my grandmama had me, and I know where my mama had me, and I know what they planted in me. And so again, there will be obstacles in life, but if you really have a spirit-filled life and a God-filled life and the right kind of family support, you can overcome those obstacles right here in America.
But again, when you are dealing with all those realities outside of the home, there are folks who say, I still got to deal with that. I
got to deal with it every day. Everybody does.
Well, no, but again, but again, I think holistically is how we have to look at it. I think it's frankly naive to think that, well, if it's just this is coming from somebody. Parents were married 51 years. Okay, still together, 5 kids, 4 went to college, all of that. But we still are looking at what happens when we still are operating in this society that goes beyond our church, that goes beyond our family.
See what Roland, I think he's kind of missing Whitlock's point about having a foundation, because when you have a foundation, you can move forward. And to Roland's point about stepping outside that home, when you're outside that home, various factors go on you can't control. You just try to do your best, to push forward. But like I said, if you don't have that foundation and there's people around you that support the same causes, then it's going to be hard to get things in place. Like if a good man and a good woman come back to the Most High and come back to the good book, it's going to steer you in the right direction. So if you decided to vote for certain things, you're going to be voting in a righteous manner and doing things that's going to benefit your community. So I wouldn't throw out voting completely, but it has to make sense. It has to make sense, and you have to build a politician from scratch that's going to do what you say, not the other way around.
The stuff that we got to deal with, that's still there.
And Roland, I think life is full of challenges for all human beings. That's just the way that it is. Life is unfair. Life is hard. What do you do to limit the ability for racism or whatever the obstacles are to impact you moving forward?
How do you limit that? How do you limit that?
I think how did me?
How would
through education, through self-responsibility, through accountability for myself, to taking care of myself and not making irresponsible decisions that make it so when I face an obstacle, I'm able to overcome it.
Yeah, that's the end of the video right there. And like I said, this was a couple years ago. I thought it was a really, good discussion. That was just a portion of it. They talked about a couple other things. But like I said, really good debate. And you can tell Roland is still to this day, he's still got a politician's hand up his ass. So you already know how that conversation is going to go with him. Instead of him saying the politicians work for you and you get together a block of individuals who believe in the same thing, that's how it works. They work for you, not the other way around. But Whitlock is just bringing up a good point about, the family and about, following the good book. So some good points, but we'll see, like especially now with the election coming up with Kamala and Trump. We'll see what's going to shake out. But that's my 1-2. All right.